Hey women, I wanted to come on this week and share a little bit about why I personally focus on pelvic health as really how I like to approach women's health more broadly. In our health and wellness space, and really in our just culture today, there's a lot of different aspects of information that come at us about this is the core of your health, and meaning like we need to build more muscle at the core of our health, or we need healthy feet, or we need better breathing mechanisms, or we need better digestive health, or all these different experts that will say, this is at the core of health, be it mental health or your microbiome or whatever it is. And while I'm not here to really refute any of that, I want to offer a perspective that is unique to our female physiological capacity. In my opinion, what's at the core of our female physiological capacity is our sexual and reproductive function, because as women, or as adult female mammals in general, we are designed for procreation. Whether we want to have children or not, that is ultimately the design of our bodies. Why I like to focus on this is that means all of the other systems, be it our respiratory system, our circulatory system, our endocrine system, are there in order to support our sexual and reproductive function, because that's just how we work as mammals. And I find so often we see sort of the reverse ideology in our health culture, meaning we say, once you get your gut straightened out, and once you have your, metabolism working at a better rate, essentially because you have more muscle mass, or once you heal your structural injuries, then all of your reproductive and sexual capacity will fall into place. However, I really like to look at it in the inverse, meaning how could we approach our health from optimizing our pelvic wellness at the core? Meaning, how would I breathe in a way that would support my sexual and reproductive capacity? How would I eat in a way that would support my sexual and reproductive capacity? How would I move? What shoes would I wear? What clothing would I wear? How would I support my endocrine system or my hormonal blueprint? All coming from the perspective that when those systems support our pelvic health directly, that's how we actually achieve better health outcomes. And so for this reason, and I know I'm just here to make the claim, and everyone says who is in their specialty that no, mine's really at the core. But I do just want to bring this to our mind about how we actually think about our health, and that when we really do center our pelvic health and center all of the rest of our work in our health around optimizing our pelvic health, I generally see better health outcomes for women. Now, I want to contrast this with men, because of course we could say that all mammals have a biological imperative to not only contribute to having offspring, but to have those offspring reach a point of adulthood where they themselves can procreate. Now, of course, men are absolutely a part of the, procreative process, but the physiological capacities that they have that ultimately add to the ability for our young to reach adulthood and procreative age themselves are somewhat distinct from those of women. Meaning we see men, and male mammals maybe more broadly, providing things such as sustenance or protection, which ensure that their young can ultimately mature. And while the sexual capacity of men is absolutely a part of reproduction, it is not essentially the core action that is required for those young to reach maturity. Why I bring this up is I think there is a claim that could be made that men, essentially, their systems don't all come back to focusing on reproductive health. But if we're looking more broadly at what is required in this sort of procreative narrative as mammals, that their skills, one might say, of sort of strength or protection, or even maybe a more hunter-gathering capacity to feed their families, have arguably a greater impact on this entire narrative of being able to have our young reach adulthood. So you could say, if we were kind of going through this lens of thought, that maybe their gut microbiome, or maybe their structural muscular skeletal capacity has a greater influence on the ability for the procreative capacity as a species more broadly. I like to bring up this differentiation because obviously women are not small men, but really even when we're looking more broadly at our health and information that impacts our health, I think centering specifically on pelvic health for women is actually the biological design in a way that it just isn't for men and maybe male mammals more broadly. Obviously, there's some varying, species things here. We're not necessarily going to get into that, but I just like to offer this perspective because, of course, we know what's good for men isn't good for women, but if we are thinking about it in terms of what are these systems actually designed to do, right? They're designed to help young reach adulthood, right? They're designed to allow our species to continue. That's how our bodies are created, right? That's how, and we can say evolution or otherwise, but that's really how the physiology is designed. And to support that optimal physiological design for women requires a deep understanding of how all of our systems actually impact our pelvic health. So if you're interested in this, obviously this is the topic of a ton of my work, but I get into it actually in greater detail and then also in regards to the social context of this work in a recent podcast I did with Dr. Kaya Abid on the Radical Woman podcast. I'm going to link that here because we dive into this a little more deeply. It's a little more polished than this particular video. And she has a fascinating perspective as well. And we really talk about not just the physiological capacity, don't mind my giant block-headed dog right here, not just the physiological capacity, but also the social and sort of contextual and historical capacity of what it means to actually center women's reproductive capacity in order to have optimal health overall. The other thing I want to mention is if you are interested in this topic, this is absolutely what we dive into on the Radical Pelvic Health Intensive. We're really looking at how all of these other systems in our body can be viewed and supported through this lens of radical pelvic health. So if you're interested in learning more about this, or if you work with women in your practice in any capacity, I just want to offer this opportunity to really dive deeper into your learning and understand how our pelvic health is really the center, and how creating radical, vibrant pelvic health for women is, in my opinion, what's going to ultimately transform our health outcomes and maybe our lives more broadly. Okay, I will leave it there, but if you do have any thoughts on this, again, these are my theories, my ideas, and I'm always open to hearing yours, so you can leave a comment, you can share this video, you can shoot me an email, and be sure you check out that podcast. As I said, it's linked below. Oh, and if you do want to come on the Radical Pelvic Health Intensive, the pre-sale opens on Monday, and we only have 15 spots, so be sure you get on that pre-sale list, and I'll link that below as well. Okay, talk soon.